This is Michael Spedden, and welcome to Fowl Players Radio, your one-stop shop for all of your pop culture needs. We feature interviews from musicians, actors, comics, dancers, authors, and much, much more, up-and-coming artists and beloved favorites. We've got it all, people on stage, backstage, out front, and behind the scenes. Sit back and relax. Let's have some fun.
Hi, this is Keith Mack, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hi, this is Randy Jackson from Zebra, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
And folks, welcome back to Fowl Players Radio. Michael Spedden here. Tonight's guest is Wade Helm, the drummer from InnerSiege. They're from Peoria, Illinois, and they are a melodic power heavy metal band that's been around since 2008. The members include, besides Wade Helm on drums, we have Grose on guitar, Jeremy Ray on vocals, JJ Prater on guitars, Ravn Furfjord on bass, and they're a great band. I've heard their material. I've played some of it on 97 Underground, and they're well worth checking out. All of their links to their social media and where you can get their merchandise and music and everything are in the show notes. And their albums, they had the album Kingdom of Shadows out in 2012. Their most recent one that came out in 2021 is Fury of Ages. They've both gotten overwhelmingly positive reviews, and they're well worth checking out. As I mentioned, all of their links are in the show notes. We'll be right back after these words with InnerSiege, folks. Don't go anywhere. The Fowl Players of Perryville, the Mid-Atlantic's premier murder mystery company, have upcoming shows on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, Fifth Company Brewing, Susky River Beverage Company, Madigan's Waterfront, Maryland Party Boat, and more. If you are interested in seeing a show, our website is www.fowlplayersofperryville.com, and if you are interested in booking us, please reach out to us at foulplayersperryville@yahoo.com or 443-600-0446. Remember, every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. and Sunday at 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the replay is The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show on 97underground.com, Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. We feature blasts from the past, songs you forgot you liked, hidden gems, classics that never die, local and national act interviews, and music from up-and-coming and beloved classic bands. Go to www.97underground.com and download the free app today and listen to us wherever you go, anytime, anywhere. Also, see our archive of interviews on YouTube at 97 Underground Michael Spedden. We thank you for watching and listening to Fowl Players Radio. Our main website is www.fowlplayersradio.com, and our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@fowlplayersradio. Remember, please support our guests in their endeavors. Shop small and buy local. Links to their books, albums, tickets to their shows, and much, much more can be found in the show notes of each episode. Enjoy today's show.
Hey, I'm Rob Galpin.
And I'm Craig Stiegel.
And I'm Mark Schenker of Gaston, and you're listening to Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio.
Hey, this is Andy Henson. You're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
And welcome back to another episode of Fowl Players Radio, Season 11. We've got 11. Our seasons go to 11 here on Fowl Players Radio. Tonight's guest is Wade Helm from InnerSiege, all the way from the heartland of our country, the Midwest.
Right, corn country.
Corn country. There we go. Corn country. Yes, absolutely. Peoria. We say Peoria, I guess, because we're from out of town and we don't know any better. But is it Peoria or something like that?
You said it right. Yep, you said it right.
Okay, great. In Illinois, the great state of Illinois. So welcome to the show. I've been listening to your material. We just had you on 97 Underground. We'll give you some spins there.
Awesome.
And looking at your bio and your website, you and your band are up to all kinds of great stuff. So spill the beans and tell us what's going on, bud.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, it's funny because, I think anybody who's been in a band long enough, you kind of have the ebb and flow, right?
Oh, yes.
And so, we've been, I think, sort of in the, things are just coasting along, but things are picking back up, which is great. I mean, I think part of it, too, is if you live anywhere where it gets cold, which you do, right?
Yeah.
And in the winter, it's people don't come out to shows as much. It stinks to try and travel in the winter. There's going to be snow or ice or whatever. So spring hits and things start to ramp up, and then Midwest. So for us, yeah, shows have ramped up. We've played since this new year began. We've played with White Cross. We played with a show with FireWind, Edge of Paradise, and Immortal Guardian. All those bands on the same bill. We played with Sacred Dawn about 3 weeks ago or so up in Chicago. We're going to a festival called Immortal Fest in July, playing with I think there's 10 bands on the bill. So we're one of 10. It's a weekend festival.
Okay.
Got some shows lined up locally after that. So yeah, things are kind of picking up.
That's wonderful. That's nice that you're playing with White Cross too. That you have played with them. Good guys, I tell you.
They're awesome guys.
They're delightful. I've
Yeah.
had them on both shows, both Foul Players and 97 Underground. Just delightful guys. And I tell you what, talk about chops.
Yeah,
that whole band
yeah.
is just, those guys are just incredible.
Yeah, well, if you ever see them live, I mean, you know, I mean, Rex is a killer guitar player.
Oh yeah.
But Michael, I got to talk up Michael Fee and their drummer for a while, because that guy is sweetheart of a person, nicest guy in the world, and a killer drummer.
Oh
like
yeah.
a John Bonham kind of killer drummer. You know, he gets up there on
yeah.
a 4 or 5 piece, and you swear he's got 12 pieces, right? I mean, he's just, you know, and he's a showman with the stick twirls and throwing the sticks and just all the stuff, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've went through, you know, kind of like what I did with you. I did my homework and my research, and I went through their, you know, not only the album that they sent me to review, the one that just came out, but looked through their back of the rack, so to say. And
oh yeah, they go back to 87, so you got some stuff to go through.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. And I tell you, you know, just a great catalog, as do you, you know,
thank you,
as you all do as well here. So when did this start for you? You know, let's talk about InnerSiege first, and then we can talk about personal histories.
Yeah, InnerSiege kind of was probably birthed around 2007-ish, 2008. You know, we had a previous band that a few of us currently in this band were in together. But then we had some players leave, and we were looking at sort of like trying to get new members. We thought, well, you know what? Let's kind of take the band in a little bit different direction. And as long as we're going to do that and get some new players, let's just change the name and have a fresh start. So that's kind of where InnerSiege was birthed, so to speak. But Jeremy, Kevin, and I, Jeremy's our singer, Kevin's one of our guitar players. We were together in the former band, and then we added Ravn and JL and kind of formed InnerSiege. And that was probably 2010, I think, around when we solidified the lineup and started moving forward from there. And we still got the same lineup together, which is really a rarity, I think, to keep the same guys together for,
oh yeah,
you know, what is that, 2010 to 24 here, so 14 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is nothing easy about that.
No.
You know?
Well, and I will brag on my bandmates for a moment, because I am blessed to play with 4 of the, you know, most easygoing, sweetest guys. You know, we all get along great. I mean, I can't honestly say we've ever had like a band argument or anything. That just doesn't happen. Everybody is super chill, and we all get along, and you know, so yeah, it's been great.
That's half the battle right there. You know, I just had a guest on, somebody that I've known for years and years and years, a band based in Baltimore called Scarlet Angel, and they just celebrated 40 years.
Wow.
40 years. Not the same lineup, but long stretches of the same lineup. And, you know, and I was just laughing with them a little bit, because I've known them for decades too, since the late 80s. And I said, you know, I had a hard time just keeping a band together for 6 months without somebody getting kicked out or somebody quitting, or there being a temper tantrum or a battle of egos or something. So amen to 40 years, you know. And then you with 14, you know, or, you know, longer, you know, just that's great. That's, you know, you really got something there, and you got to run with it when you've got that kind of good chemistry and good camaraderie, I think, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is, you know, we've done life together, so to speak. I mean, we've been through some stuff together, some serious things, from family illnesses to cancer diagnoses to,
oh boy,
you know, our guitar player had a stroke. You know, guitar player having a stroke is a pretty big deal. And he had to work his way back and get his dexterity and strength and everything back.
Wow.
We've been through some family traumas. I mean, you name it, you know, births of children and deaths of parents, and you just kind of name it, you know. So I think, you know, you talk about a band bringing brotherhood. I think we truly have that, and we're blessed in that way. So
like family, it seems like, and you're there, going through life together. That really says a lot there, knowing, kids and, being around each other for so long and everything. That's really good that you've got that kind of relationship because, again, a lot of bands don't, a lot of bands, it's, just business only. And then,
Right.
they don't even like each other sometimes. So,
well, exactly. Yeah, you hear those
yeah.
stories about some of the greatest bands,
Mhm.
but the guys butted heads. You got, your David Lee Roths with Eddie Van Halen, or your Don Dokken and George Lynch, or you name it.
Yep.
They were
Yep.
great together, but they couldn't stay together.
Mhm. Sure.
So,
Well, that's wonderful. And so now, how many albums do you have out altogether here?
just the two.
Just
Yeah.
the two.
And that's the
Okay.
thing. I think people are going to look at it and go, well, why such a long time between albums? Because the first one came out late December of 2012. So you might as well say 2013 because it was a tail end of the year. And then we had the official album release party in like January of 13.
Mhm.
The next one didn't come out till 21. But that was partly due to what I was just talking about. A lot of life happened in between.
Oh, yeah.
And there was
Yeah.
things that just put the band on kind of hiatuses here and there for a while. And
Mhm.
there was possibility that one of our guitar players was going to be moving out of the country. There was just a lot going on. So
Oh.
it took a long time. And then just trying to raise funds and figuring out how we were going to get it recorded and how we were going to get it mixed and mastered. And,
Mhm.
because I mean, in this day and age, yes, the tools are there to be able to make something decent on your own, but you still want it to sound professional and be mastered correctly and mixed correctly.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
that costs a lot of money just to even have those portions done. So, because our first album, we had all recorded. We paid to have it recorded. We got it
Mhm.
recorded here locally at a studio. But when we got it all done, we said, we don't want to just have this mixed and mastered like by somebody local. We want to get somebody,
Mhm.
So our pipe dream was Fredrik Nordstrom. If you know who he
Mhm.
is, he's the guitar player for Dream Evil, huge producer, mixer guy in Sweden. He's done Arch Enemy and Camelot and all these bands. So we said, that's who we want to get. And we thought, how's that ever going to happen? Well, it did by a miracle of God, because we know a guy from Sweden. He called him, acted as a sort of our go between because he spoke the language. We talked to Fredrik and he said, yeah, I can do it. I've got time in like March or whatever, of that year. And so we sent him the files and he'd send us mixes back, and we worked back and forth remotely like that. And we had a donor who blessed the band and gave us this check I did not expect with 3 zeros. And it basically paid for the, mixing and mastering. And so we got Fredrik Nordstrom to do the first one, which was incredible. So, like I say, it was God thing, something we couldn't have orchestrated. So it was just really cool how it worked out. And, to have his stamp on it and his touch on it, I think really helped. So, and then the second one, we got to that point again. It's like, well, we had to figure out how to do this. So I will say the second one was totally self-done by the band. And when I say by the band, really by our singer, Jeremy. He busted his hump to just dive into all things mixing and mastering and learning it and learning software. And so it took us probably 2 years to just record it because we were learning as we were going and then figuring
Yeah.
out how to mix and master it. And so, yeah, I think the drums were probably done 2 years before the album came out, So,
Oh, yeah. And that's something too. A lot of people just really don't realize how difficult this is
yeah,
to put out a good recording. I mean, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot
yeah,
of working things out. There's a lot of, and everything's got to be just right.
yeah.
And I would say too, and tell me if you agree, that I think your engineer in the studio is a lot of like that fifth Beatle or whatever.
Exactly. And I think
Um,
you see that if you ever watch those ones, there's that company that puts out all those ones where they take a classic rock album and look at the behind the scenes of the production and things. And
mhm,
yeah, I think that producer or engineer becomes like that fifth member of the band for the
mhm,
time you're recording, you know. And
mhm,
they've got the ears to know where things sit in the mix. So the guitar punches through and the bass cuts through and this sound effect
mhm.
comes through, or, to make it really stand out and everything to not
Yeah.
step on each other. And, you get phase and cancellations going on, all this weird stuff. And they know all that,
Mhm.
me, I
Oh,
just beat on drums. I don't know that
yeah.
stuff. So,
Well,
you know,
yeah. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, you really got to know how that equipment works. I walk into a studio. I mean, I feel like I'm on the set of like a '60s sci-fi
oh, yeah.
movie or something. I'm looking around like
Yeah.
I don't even know
It's
what
like
this
sitting in the
stuff
cockpit
is.
of like a 747 with that instrument panel. And what's this switch do?
I know. I know, but these guys know how all that stuff works, and they can really
Yeah.
make some good magic with it and everything. Yeah, and I've even tried, I mean, the things that I can do, as an actor, I've done some, voiceovers that I've recorded with the equipment that I have at home, but it's not multiple layers of guitars. It's
Yeah.
just a voice track,
Right.
making sure that my diction is good and making
Well,
sure that I've
exactly.
got a good
Yeah.
sound quality. But I'm not mixing in, I'm not working on drum tones or bass tones or
Yeah.
guitar tones and effects and having this solo come in here and then, having it,
Yeah.
work its way through your headphones, going in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, it really
whole
helps
other.
that it helped that our guitar player Kevin as well. He had been a sound man for years, and
Yeah,
almost every Friday, Saturday was out running sound for this one band, and so he really dove into all things sound and learned, like, okay, if this is bad, cut this frequency. If you can't hear this, boost this frequency. So he kind of learned all those sort of things. And then, like say, Jeremy dove in full blast, and between the two of them, I think they got together with our other guitar player Jerry, and I mean, they tried every amp and head and speaker configuration you could try for probably 2 months solid, just doing that to get the guitar tone they wanted. That's how much
Sure.
time was put into just doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Which one mic's the best, and where's the best mic placement on the speaker to get the best tone, and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, where you put the microphone, you put it in the front, or sometimes they put one in the front of the amp and in the back.
yeah,
I mean,
it
there's
was
all
just like
kinds
a
of.
big learning curve for all those things. So
Oh yeah, and then different ways to mic drums and different. I mean, there's just so much, and I'm just like, here's the mic, it's on it. Yeah.
well, then the thing was, we got the album done, but we're like, well, how are we going to release this? Because we could do it ourselves, but we want to have a further reach, because our first album was on Rocks Records, which is a label out of LA,
Yeah.
and we gave them pretty much a finished product, and they took care of having them created, making the CDs and printing them and all that, and then they took care of the distribution. So that's kind of what we wanted to do again, was get a label behind it, so somebody would absorb sort of the cost of printing them and getting it distributed. So this time we kind of partnered with two labels. One's called No Dust, which is out of Netherlands. They're really the label that we signed with, but they work with a company called Qumran Records in the US, who handles like the US distribution for them. So you look at the CD, you're probably going to see both labels on there, and that's why. But No Dust was the one that kind of put up the money and made it and put it out there. And then Qumran handled the US side of it. So we worked with both those labels. But again, we gave them a finished product and had all the artwork and everything done, said, here you go. And then they kind of got them mastered and printed and took care of getting them out in the stores and getting them on the internet. And they got us in physical stores. It was really cool when it came out. We went on the internet just because we were, nerds trying to figure out, where's it available? And I was finding record stores in Germany and Japan and places that physically had it in the store, which was really cool. In this day of digital, it's just cool to see your CD like in a record store.
It's amazing how things work their way around the globe too, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was in Arizona visiting a buddy, and we went to Zia Records, which is kind of a big record store out there. We were in I think we were in the Tucson one. We also went to the Phoenix one, but my buddy Craig and I go into the store in Tucson, and I'm looking through alphabetically through the eyes, and there's whatever Iron Maiden, blah, blah, InnerSiege. Oh, we were on the shelf, in this record store in Tucson. I'm like, that's really cool. So
that's great. Yeah, I'll share a story that I had. My band had been broken up for a number of years. I got a call. This was probably in early 2000s. I got a call from a radio station in Santiago, Chile.
Oh, wow.
Where one of the DJs used to follow our band. He was living in Maryland and used to follow the band I was in, Orange Seed Parade. And he became a DJ and wanted to do a special on us. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And so I looked up the radio station online, and it was like the typical rock and roll station. And I look on their website, and it said, coming this week, our band picture was on there right next to Bono, Phil Collins, and Sting.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, how the hell did that happen? And he interviewed us, but the problem was, as soon as I would start to answer, he would overdub himself. I would fade out, and he would come in Spanish over top of what I was saying. But
yeah.
That was a cool experience, and I'm like, wow, how the heck and he played the whole album too, all
That's
10
awesome.
songs.
That's the thing. I think with the internet, it's really opened eyes to see that, some band that maybe thought they were just a local band. It's like, no, some guy in Japan loves you guys. What? How do you ever hear about us?
Right.
So, the internet it's the double-edged sword of the internet. Has opened up the whole world to get your music out there, but it's opened up the whole world that your music's just out there for free.
The truth too. I mean, so many and that's the thing too. It's just, it's not difficult at all to duplicate people's music and to just pass it around and everything. And I tell you, a lot of times, I mean, you sent me a couple of songs for promos, but I plan on buying your stuff,
Cool. Thank you.
personally, and I
Yeah.
do that, and I do that for all my guests. I'll, especially when I'm doing my homework, I may listen to it on YouTube if it's there, but I do make it a point. I gotta tell you, my Apple Music has loved me the last couple of years, they're like, oh, what would you like
Well,
today?
Yeah, well, I'm the same way because I mean, I'm not just playing in a metal band. I play in a metal band because I'm a huge fan of heavy metal and always have
Yeah.
been. So,
Mhm.
my CD collection is big and keeps growing. I mean, just 3 weeks ago, I went to a local record store. I came away that day with 5 CDs.
Yeah.
So, I love metal. I want to support it. I want to support the bands because I know if I want to see them,
Mhm.
then I've got to, buy their music so they can continue to play out live and tour and
Right.
you know
Mhm. Yes, this is not, we're not candy stripers, we're not volunteers,
yeah,
and it does cost money to, you know, keep making more CDs and recording more music and everything.
exactly.
Again, very often it is thankless. Very often, rewards sometimes come far and, are few and far between, but,
Sure.
um,
It's kind of the same if I go see a band live. Like, I just went
mhm.
and saw Saxon Uriah Heep like 3 weeks ago.
Oh
And I
yeah.
pretty much knew going into it, I'm gonna buy a Saxon shirt because I love Saxon. And I did. And I want to support those bands because yes, I know t-shirts have gotten expensive now, concert t-shirts, but
Mhm.
again, these guys are trying to make a living.
Yep.
They're from England coming here to play for us and doing a tour in the States and,
Yep.
probably not making a ton off record sales. So, hey, if you can buy a
Not
t-shirt
here.
that helps them out or a stocking
Mhm.
cap or whatever.
Yeah, I always do that too. Because we with 97 Underground, we a lot of times a band will come to town and they'll buy advertising on the station, and part of the
Yeah.
package is if you want, one of the personalities will come out and MC your show. They'll introduce you at the club that
Yeah.
night, and I've done it a number of times, for both national and local acts, and got to do it for Zebra,
Oh,
and I
wow. Yeah.
bought a Zebra shirt. That was a funny story right there. I don't know. You can't tell by looking at me on the air or on Zoom here, right? I'm 6'6". I'm the size of the average NFL lineman. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
and Zebra is not. Okay, Felix. When I went out to introduce him, the stage manager says use Felix's mic. I think Felix may be 5'4".
Wow.
Okay, not belittling the guy or putting him down or anything
Sure.
like that. But then
Yeah.
with the puns you can construe from that, I'm just making it worse. But I'm sticking my foot farther in my mouth here. But okay, so when I walked out on stage, I come walking out on stage. 97 Underground is hosting Zebra tonight. Okay, so I'm walking out there, and I walked over to his mic stand, and his mic came up to about my sternum. And I'm standing in front of the mic. I'm looking at the crowd. They're looking at me, and people starting to laugh. And I bent down, I grabbed the mic, and I said, "Well, they're a great band, but apparently not a very tall one." And so but that's a great part. And I ended up buying a shirt, which my wife kind of commandeered. She's wearing my Zebra
Yeah.
shirt all over the place. But hey, but I do, and like you were saying before too, the Saxons, you know, they come here, they're doing bigger clubs,
Mhm.
medium to big
Right.
size clubs. Europe, they're still doing stadiums.
Oh, yeah, they go to Wacken and play to 80,000 people.
Exactly. And it's as if nothing ever changed, over there. It's
Yeah.
still home, and yeah, a lot of bands are doing the fly-in gigs.
Mhm.
Slaughter, they were telling me they do a lot of festivals. They're not out touring where they're going to a different city a couple nights a
Right.
week. They're pretty much doing the weekend thing. You had mentioned some festivals earlier. Do you do a number of those a year, or?
It depends. I mean, I would tell you when the album came out, the first album in 2013, that was that year just kind of exploded for us. I mean, we played all kinds of festivals. We went to Nashville, and we went to Nebraska, and we went to Chicago, and we went to, I'm trying to think where all we did go. We went to California, but that was earlier. But I mean, we just played all these fests. But yeah, there's a festival that happens near here every year called Audio Feed in Champaign, Illinois. That's about an hour and a half away, and we've played Audio Feed most every year since it started. But yeah, like I say, we're going to this Immortal Fest in July in Versailles, Ohio. It's our first time playing that. It's the third year for the festival, so really looking forward to that one because White Cross is going to be at that too, and some other bands.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, festivals are fun. We've flown overseas twice to play festivals. We flew to Norway. That was when we were our former band before we became InnerSiege. But that band played Norway at Nordic Fest, and then InnerSiege went in 2013 to Switzerland, and we played at Elements of Rock Festival there. White Cross was also at that one. So
okay, yeah.
You know? But yeah, so yeah, we've done a couple overseas festivals where fly in, play, jet lagged and everything, have maybe one day to sightsee and fly home. So
right. Yeah, I enjoy festivals. We had 97 Underground was really active in the M3 festival for a number of years, and then it's usually about this time every year in Baltimore. I forget I think it's called Death Fest or something.
Okay.
Where they have, I think, 3 or 4 days of all the kind of bands where you can't read their logos because they look like
the broken sticks piled up. Yeah,
they look like tree roots or something, And it was funny. A number of years ago, you had about 20 of those, which I couldn't have told you who because I can't even make it out. But it was all those bands, probably about 25 or 30 of them. And then the headliner, Blue Oyster Cult.
Wow, that seems an odd choice.
Yeah, those guys are like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But some of those guys are very gracious too. Never interviewed them, but I did get an opportunity to meet them. And just good guys.
That's
just
cool.
Good guys, really, really, really good. And, and I'm finding that, a lot of the people that I'm running into in this industry, I think, there may have been times, and I'm sure there probably is with some people where there's, egos and bad behavior and antisocial. But I think, as these folks are getting older, I think they're becoming more and more grateful, that people are still there.
Sure.
And interested, that they're holding up, that they're still have some sort of relevance.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in this day and age with the music biz the way it is, I mean, to be able to have that 40-year career or 35-year career, whatever, and sustain it is just, you have to be thankful for it because, you never know when it could be over tomorrow, right?
Right. And the thing is that, I mean, a lot of these bands are going into their 50th year, some of them even more than that. And I remember, again, you and I are pretty much in the same age group, started playing around the same time. And God, I remember back when, somebody was 35, we're like, God, those guys are old.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. 15-year-old me would probably write current me off because he's too old,
Yeah. Because they're like, what the hell are those guys still doing playing in a band when they're 35? Good Lord. Why don't they hang it up already? 35, and they're still, now, good Lord, that's when people are still just starting to get started now, really.
Well, exactly. I know so many bands
that
don't hit their stride and really start making an impact till like their 40s or something, or 50, so
right.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Right. Well, and then you got to figure too, I mean, Sinatra, performed until he was nearly 80. I mean, the only difference between him and Deep Purple is that he wasn't doing metal.
Right.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
But I remember when Elvis died and I heard he was 42. I was like, 42. Good Lord, that's old.
That's so young.
Yeah, I know. And another thing too is that, and I hate to bring this up, but I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing, but a lot of guys, from the music scene years ago, I'm friends with on Facebook, but it was getting to the point where it was almost like you bring up Facebook every day. It's almost like the obituary page,
Yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of those guys lived hard, still did. But it was just like, my God, the guys that were, players back in the day are a disappearing breed. We're going extinct almost,
Right. Exactly.
Yep. And not getting any younger, of course,
Well, that's kind of my feeling with like, anymore, like if a Saxon or a priest or whoever is going to be within a couple hours of me, I'm like, I have to go because they're not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger.
Yep.
This may be my last chance to see them. You don't know. So
I know. And so many of them are announcing the final tour ever. And then they're back next summer. No, we mean it this time is really the final tour. And then, and then the next year, well, we thought we had one more in us here,
yeah, gonna pull the Kiss 20-year reunion tour,
Oh, geez, oh whiz.
20-year farewell tour. Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that a lot of these bands, they still have the ability to get out there and do it. I mean, they're doing it a little bit less each week. I mean, again, like they're kind of doing the fly-in things and everything. But I think they've learned as they've aged how to really preserve their abilities and their voices and everything, and to be able to get out and do these shows.
Well, that's the one that's most impressive to me because I would say it's the toughest one who has the toughest job in the band is the singer because it's tough to keep your voice up for 50 years, right? 40 years.
Oh yeah.
And bands are going to be the first ones to rail on oh, he sounded terrible last night, or he didn't hit that note, or whatever.
Yeah.
The guitar player hits a sour note, nobody really cares. Singer hits a sour note, everybody's talking about it, but
it's like E.F. Hutton,
But I will say, like when we saw Saxon 3 weeks ago, oh my gosh, I mean, I purposely went back and listened to The Eagle Has Landed, the old 1981 live album from Saxon, and I'm like, he sounded exactly like that the other night.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
Been 40 years since that album. He sounds the same. So hasn't lost anything.
Right. And another thing too is that, and this kind of gets on my nerves. I don't know if you agree with me or not. Judas Priest is out there. Halford has been with them. He was like their second singer, really.
Right.
Ian Hill was original. Glenn Tipton's obviously, suffering.
Yeah.
You get these people, and the people that normally say these things are people who don't play. They're like, oh, they're just a Priest cover band now. Do you hate that too, or do you ever hear that?
Yeah, sometimes I'll admit that gets a little old because it's like, you still got, like, say, you got Halford there, you got Ian Hill there. I mean, really, Scott Travis has been there now longer than any drummer in Priest.
He's
not the original. He's not the original, but he's been there longer than anybody else. So I mean,
right.
So yeah, to me, you've got 3/5 of Priest there. Glenn would be there if he could be.
Right.
He can't. And to me, Richie has breathed like new life into the band. He's been an awesome addition. And Andy Sneap's a killer producer. I mean, he's been the one that's been doing all the last few Accept albums and everything, and he's got a magic touch too. And like,
yes, he does.
Quality on the last two albums, and him as the second guitar player live. I mean, to me, they're a great band.
They are, and like something else too. Like with for example, with Saxon, like we were just talking about here, that second guitar player and the bass player both been in the band since the late 80s.
Exactly.
Almost 35 years.
Been there longer than
almost 35 years. That singer, that for Accept, the TT Quick guy.
Yeah, Mark
Tornillo. Yeah, that's it. I mean, he's been with them, God, since Udo left, pretty much. I think Udo may have had like 10 years in, but this guy's probably got close to 35.
Well, really, the consistent output. I mean, they've done what now? 6 albums with Tornillo, right? And they've all been killer.
Yeah, they have
great albums.
They have. And even like Uriah Heep. Mick Box is the only original left. Now, a number of them have passed away, but the singer that they have has been with them since the mid 80s. I mean,
that guy has a great voice.
Yes, he is. Yeah, they do. They're different than the original, than David Byron, but great material.
Yeah.
Great material and a hell of a live show. It's just, but I think I'm glad to see you're kind of on the same page with me, because that normally comes out of the mouth of people who are, I call them consumers.
Well, that's the thing when you want to start arguing. Well, it's not the original. Well, if you want to talk the original Priest was Al Atkins and like Les Binks on drums, and it's like, so the original Priest,
Yeah.
you got to go way back, and none of those guys are in the band anymore.
Right.
So, you know, so
Right.
yeah, the band you know is the original maybe
Mhm.
isn't the original. They may have been like practicing in the basement for 3 years before that and had different players. So
I know.
it's
That's
just the one
the
the band lineup that got popular with or whatever,
right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so you're on the same page with me as that. So when did all this begin with you? I mean, prior to Inner Siege,
Yeah, well,
you know.
as a kid, I was just drawn to music. My parents both liked music a lot. They didn't really play, but it was always on in the house.
Sure.
Mom
Yeah.
was more like classical and Johnny Mathis and Barbara Streisand, and Dad was country, but he was like old country.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, I think we had the same parents.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then my sister, she was the young girl listening to Andy
Mhm.
Gibb and that kind of stuff, and Sean Cassidy or whatever. Then there was me going. I remember going to my grandma and grandpa's house, and my aunt, who was like 10 years older than me, she was like a teenager when I was a little kid or something. I
Mhm.
was in her bedroom looking at a record collection, and she had Kiss Alive 2. And I saw that cover, Gene on there with the blood and Ace.
Yes.
And then you open the gatefold vinyl and you go, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
So I still remember my first time hearing Kiss, and then I was
Mhm.
sold. I'm like, ooh, this kind of harder stuff is for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then I was full on Kiss. I remember for 1978, I was 10 years old in 1978. So now all you people can guess my age. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I told my parents I want a Kiss record for Christmas. So they got me double platinum because that had come out, which was sort of like the gatefold double album, which was like the best of,
Mhm.
covering like the first 6 albums.
Yep.
So I just wore that out, and then I had to go back and get all the other albums, and then was a Kiss nut from that point on. But then I'm like, well, if I like this, there's got to be other stuff. So then I started to
Mhm.
discover like Ted Nugent and UFO and just the other kind of hard rock of the day. But
Yep.
then like the 80s hit, and I heard Iron Maiden and I heard Judas Priest, and I went, ooh,
Oh,
what is
yeah.
this?
Mhm.
And then it was just game on.
Oh,
I'd go
yeah.
to the record
Yeah.
store every week. I'd ride my bike over there, and our
Mhm.
local record store had a wall right when he walked in. The wall right in front of him was like the metal wall. They had
Yeah.
stuff on there
Yeah.
like Raven and Lizzie Borden and Man of
Mhm.
War, and this was all like underground stuff at that point.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
was just buying these records based on album covers. And then I just got, sucked into the whole metal explosion, and I was buying Omen and Hellstar and you name it, and
Yeah.
the gloves were off at that point. So
Yep.
yeah, that was, and so my teenage years, I mean, it really was an awesome time to be a teenager through the 80s because that's when metal
Mhm.
was exploding, and it went from
Yep.
just, your
Mhm.
hard rock to your more piercing heavy metal to thrash was a new thing then,
Mhm.
and speed metal, and I absorbed all of it and got into all of it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
for me to start drumming, that didn't happen till really later in life. It was 1987 or something when I got my first
Mhm.
drum kit. So I was already like out of high school and college. So I didn't really get serious about drumming in that till probably after I got out of college and got married.
Mhm.
Then it's like, okay, now I can buy a drum kit and practice at home and start kind of getting into this. So I was kind of a late bloomer with playing music. Prior to
Mhm.
that, I played a lot of air drums and air guitar in my bedroom. I was
Yeah.
joking that I
Yeah.
had a guitar, made by that famous company Wilson, because it was a Wilson tennis racket.
Yes. I had a
So
Spalding myself. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I used to pretend I was Ace Frehley in front of my mirror and playing the tennis racket like every kid did. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the music bug bit me, like I say, at like 10 years old, and
Mhm.
it's still there. So
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you and I are the same guy. Because pretty much you took pretty much the same path that I did to get into music. Now, a lot of the stuff that I listened to in high school too was the prog stuff, like the
Mhm.
Yes and Genesis and
Sure.
that sort of stuff as well. But I always had a bunch of metal, uh, and also a friend of mine's brother worked at a record store, and we would get like he would bring stuff to us all the time too that we could
Oh yeah.
listen to, but we'd have to seal it. He'd bring it home, we'd listen to it, but then he'd put it back in, and he had one of those plastic machines to seal the plastic back up and take it back. Um, but yeah, that was the same, exactly the same stuff, right around the same time too. I mean, you and I are right there age wise
Yeah.
too.
Well, I think I'm gonna sound like an old guy now, but I think it's kind of sad that kids today don't have that experience of just going to the record store and looking forward to going to the record store because
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's new release weekend or whatever. Let's go see what came out,
Mhm.
and just everything wasn't on the internet because there was no internet, so you kind of had to take a chance. It's like,
Yep.
this cover looks cool. These guys have long hair. It looks cool. I'm gonna buy it.
Uh,
But now you hear everything in advance. It sort of takes away that surprise and that excitement about it. And, going to the record store isn't as big a thing anymore as it was. But I grew up in a record store.
Right, right, right.
That was my entertainment. I was
Mhm.
never like into sports or anything else. I was just the guy that was like into listening to music,
Sure, sure. Yeah, and that's and the other thing too. I mean, vinyl is starting to make a comeback, which I think is a good thing. But not only for sitting down and I mean, I don't know if they've made vinyl better nowadays to where you
Yeah.
sit down with you don't hear the pops and the hisses while you're listening to your records, but the um the experience that I always loved, and you had mentioned Kiss Alive too, was you get the album home, you put the album on, then you open the album
Yeah, for the first time and go, whoa. Yeah.
and you read the jackets, you read the liner notes, you look at the pictures.
Yeah.
Some albums like Love Gun actually had some goodies they would give you too.
Yeah, a little pop gun thing.
Yeah, a
and
little
all that.
pop. Yeah, exactly. And and you're also right too about the surprise of it. I mean, sometimes you may have heard somebody talking about some band. You may have seen an ad in Hit Parader
Oh, yeah.
or something
Metal
like that,
Edge
or
yeah.
Circus or something like that. And or you listen to Metal Shop and you want to give this band a try. So again, sometimes I did find a couple albums I didn't like back in
Sure.
those days too, but for the most part, I'd say it was overall pretty positive.
I would agree. I didn't buy too many snoozers. I mean, most everything I bought, I still have.
Right, right. And and I really think too, it was just such to be playing back in those days was really such a magical time. I'm not sure what the scene was like for you, in the Midwest, but um, when we played the clubs here on the East Coast, you know, um, Baltimore and DC were like AAA. The goal was to get to New York.
Okay.
Okay. The goal was to get to New York. Baltimore had some big clubs. We had Hammerjacks, the Network, the Rage, Maxwell's. DC had the 930 Club, the Bayou, a number of clubs down there. Baltimore was more homogenous, more metal, more hair bands. DC had a lot more alternative.
Sure.
A lot of bands could interchange and play between those and also Northern Virginia, but the goal was to get to New York.
Okay.
And whenever somebody got a gig in New York, the last show they would play in town was always like the Bon Voyage party, where everybody would kind of gather around, wish them well. And a lot of times there were car caravans going up there to see them play. But the main thing, and I don't know how this was for you, was the promotion. There was no Facebook.
Oh, no.
There was no electronic. You had to get out there. And I tell you what, too, those club owners said, you better have been out there giving out flyers.
Oh, exactly. It was the plastering the telephone poles all around town.
Oh, yeah.
Putting them under the windshield wipers on cars, going to every record store and gas station in town, hanging up flyers.
Yep. That's how it was back then. And that changed starting in I spent some time away from playing and came back to playing in the mid 2000s. Got a couple of shows, and I was not playing in a metal band. I was playing in an acoustic act. Went to a club I got booked in, and I went in and started giving out flyers, and people looking at me like I had 4 heads or I was coughing on them or something. Like, what is this?
What do I do with this?
Yeah, I know. I'll read it first, and then come see the band number 2, but the times just changed, and that element of the actually going out and mixing and meeting people and the camaraderie with the fans has really kind of gone away. That was just such a magical.
You hear all these tales of the Sunset Strip in the 80s,
Yeah.
And I mean, just lines around the block to get into Gazzari's and the Whiskey A Go Go and all these places, and every band that wasn't playing was still there attending the show and handing out flyers promoting their band. It was just the scene was huge and thriving, and you could have Armored Saint and Omen playing over here, and then you could have Poison and Winger playing over here, and then you could have Anthrax over here, or whatever. It was everything from thrash to glam metal on the same strip there. But yeah, I mean, I part of me wishes I could have experienced that, just because I was so into the music, and you just always heard about the legendary status of it. I didn't ever get to the Sunset Strip until 2009, and it was kind of nothing going on by that point.
Right. Yeah, I never got out west. The best I did was the 930 Club in DC and CBGB's in New York. I played there a number of times, but never got out west to LA. Never made it past really. Never made it any further west than West Virginia, really.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I went out for work. I had to go to LA. And
okay.
I have a friend that lives out there, so we connected while I was out there, and so we went to the Whiskey A Go Go, and we went to some places, and went to some shows, and went to eat at the Rainbow. Didn't see Lemmy, but we went to the Rainbow. But Lemmy wasn't there. But just it's I want to see some of these legendary places, but there wasn't really a lot of bands playing these places that used to be these hotbeds for hard rock. It's well, now there was some hip hop or rap artists playing, and it's okay.
Right. Well, and it's also too, if you ever went around your hometown and seen some of the biggest places that were around in those days, you drive by, Hammerjacks is now the parking lot for the Baltimore Ravens stadium.
Yeah.
The Network is now a CVS pharmacy.
Yeah.
Maxwell's is now a pool hall. So many places are just gone, and it's just you can only remember. A friend of mine, a band that I played pretty regularly on my show on 97 wrote a song called Rock Ghosts, and they were talking about all of those places. The arena, the Capitol Center down in Landover, Maryland, where they filmed Heavy Metal Parking Lot, that's gone. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. But I guess hey, what can you do? What can you do? Life moves on. People buy buildings and land and do as they wish. You know?
Well, even in the 90s, when there wasn't as much going on, there was a place just 10 minutes from here. There's this little town, not that big of a town, and it had this bar at the top of the hill when you pull into town. And this place was getting Slaughter and Quiet Riot and bringing in all these sort of the 80s kind of hard rock bands, because it was the 90s when they were out of vogue, but this place was bringing them in. So I could go 10 minutes from home and see all these bands, but then that place had a fire and burned down, and it never came back. And so that was a cool place to go see shows, and it was small and intimate. So you're the Quiet Riot's 5 feet from me playing, and that kind of thing. But yeah, for us, all those kind of places kind of closed up shop too. And there were some big clubs in Peoria that back in the day that used to have bigger bands, and most of those are gone. So yeah, we're down to just smaller bars left. And, we did have a brand new venue just open within the last year or so called the Revival Music Hall in Peoria. And they're trying to kind of bring that back. And that's where FireWind played, a month or so ago. And they had the Iron Maidens there, Mother's Day, which I thought was funny. Iron Maidens played on Mother's Day, but I went to that show, and so they're getting some of that kind of those tier bands in there, which is really cool, and getting some metal and hard rock in. But
the Iron Maidens were just here not too long ago too. They played down in Annapolis, Maryland. So very good. So, well, look, I'd like to thank you for coming and spending some time with us here on Fowl Players Radio. All my best wishes to that successful shows, and that your albums are doing well and everything here. Why don't you give us some shameless plugs here? Shameless plug time for all your social media and
Well, the best place to start is probably just innersiege.com, and that's INNERSIEGE, just all one word, innersiege.com. That's going to have links off of that to our Patreon, to our Instagram, to our Facebook, to our YouTube. But yeah, it's just, Instagram.com/InnerSiege, Facebook.com/InnerSiege. And then our YouTube is InnersiegeMetal, all just one long word, InnerSiegeMetal. But we've got everything on there in terms of videos and some funny stuff. And, but yeah, Facebook's probably the best way to keep up with us. It's going to be the most up to date. Have, postings about shows, postings about new merch, whatever. Yeah, it's probably the best place to catch us, and we're pretty responsive too. I mean, if you want to send a message or something, you know, we like talking to people, so you know, happy to answer back if people have questions or something. But yeah, I'd say that's the best place to reach us. And then, like, say, for shows coming up, we've got the one in Versailles, Ohio, July 26th at Immortal Fest. Really cool festival. Like I say, it's the 3rd year. Got some cool bands playing this year, so looking forward to that. It's going to be one of the, I think, biggest venues we've ever played in terms of like the staging and the lighting and stuff. Just a cool place. So we're looking forward to that a lot. And then yeah, after that, some local shows, but hopefully some more big stuff down the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, folks, all of the links to everywhere you can find InnerSiege will be in the show notes as well, so you can refer to that when you're looking for them. But I do encourage you to listen to their stuff and check them out and buy some stuff and get out to a show if you're in that neck of the woods. Definitely well worth seeing. And so again, Wade, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we will see you all next time, folks. Thank you all for listening. This is InnerSiege on Fowl Players Radio. And folks, thanks for tuning in tonight and listening to our interview with Wade Helm of InnerSiege. They're a great band from Peoria, Illinois. As I mentioned before, all their links are in the show notes. Well worth checking out. I really think you'll enjoy them. They're part of the melodic power heavy metal scene, and well worth checking out, like I had mentioned. Remember, the Fowl Players of Perryville, www.fowlplayersofperryville.com. Come check out one of our murder mysteries. We've got a whole bunch of venues now, including Fifth Company Brewing. We've got Susky River Beverage Company. We've got Madigan's on the Waterfront, the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, and Maryland Party Boat. Come see a show, folks. It'll be well worth your time. Also, my show on 97 Underground, The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show, is on every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. The replay is on Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. Remember to download our free app and check out all of my interviews. They are archived on YouTube, www.youtube.com/@97underground Michael Spedden. Remember, FowlPlayersRadio.com. You can find all of our episodes there. We're over 320 episodes, and our YouTube page, youtube.com/@FowlPlayersRadio. Folks, remember to hit that like and subscribe button and show us some love, and also support our guests in their endeavors. We really appreciate it. Until next time, folks, this is Michael Spedden signing off. See you next time.